My name's Harold Denton, 55 years old, retired signal technician for the Texas Rail Line. 32 years of steady work, rain, heat, and holidays, and not one missed paycheck until I hung up my gloves 3 winters ago. These days, I keep things simple. I wake up early, make black coffee, balance my checkbook, and walk 3 blocks to the hardware store to help part-time. I don't need much, never did. My wife Marjorie used to say, "You measure a man by what he fixes, not what he buys." When she passed, the house felt too big, too loud with memories. So I sold it, put the money where numbers don't lie. Real estate, through an LLC my old friend Ray Morales helped me set up. He called it Denton Holding Trust after me, though I told him it sounded too proud. I rented myself a small apartment in the same building, the one I quietly owned. Nobody knew, nobody needed to. My son Ryan likes to say I live like a ghost from the analog age. He's 31, married to Amber, the kind of woman who calls her husband babe in every sentence and calls me sir, like it's a formality. Last week, Ryan invited me to Christmas dinner. He said, "We're doing it big this year, Dad. Catered meal, rooftop view, the works. You'll finally see how far we've come." I almost declined, but the way he said finally hit something in me. I told him I'd be there. Christmas Eve came colder than usual. I put on my old tweed jacket, the one Marjorie bought me the year Ryan graduated high school, and took an Uber downtown. Their building stood tall, glass and chrome against the night sky. New money kind of tall. I stepped into the elevator and watched the numbers climb, floor after floor, until the doors opened into their penthouse glowing gold with laughter and wine. Amber greeted me with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Harold, you made it. Look at you, classic as ever." Ryan came over, arm around her waist, champagne in hand. "Dad, this place's rent could give you a heart attack." I smiled faintly. "Oh, I think my heart can handle it." I didn't say what I was thinking, that I already knew exactly what the rent was. I'd written the figure myself. As the laughter filled the room, Amber leaned close to another guest and whispered, "It's sweet he still tries to act proud." And that was the moment I knew. This Christmas wouldn't end with carols. It would end with a ledger. The apartment looked like something out of a magazine. White marble floors, a 12-foot tree covered in gold ornaments, and a skyline view worth more than my pension. Amber floated between guests in a red silk dress, calling out cocktail recipes like she'd been born rich. Ryan followed behind her, one hand on a drink, the other on his phone, laughing too loud. "Dad," he said, clapping my shoulder, "don't just stand there, get a drink. Top-shelf whiskey, the kind your generation used to dream about." I took the glass he handed me but didn't drink. The chatter around me was slick. Startups, crypto, market spikes. A language that used to mean nothing to me and still did. "So Harold," one of their friends said, adjusting his cufflinks, "Ryan tells us you're retired railroad. That's awesome. Manual labor builds character." He said manual labor like it was a museum exhibit. Amber giggled. "He's being polite, honey. He means old school. Dad used to fix signal boxes, with screwdrivers." I smiled thinly. "And trains still run on those signals." Her eyes glimmered. "For now." Ryan raised his glass. "Come on, babe. Don't tease him. Dad's proud of living small. Right, old man? No debt, no dreams, no problem." Laughter rippled through the group. I just stood there, letting it echo, the sound tinny and hollow in my ears. "Dad," Ryan continued, turning to the room, "he still writes checks. Can you believe it? He refuses to use Venmo. Says paper keeps you honest." Amber leaned in, stage whispering, He even brought his own calculator once to the grocery store. It's adorable. The word hit harder than any insult. Adorable. Like I was a relic they dusted off for show and tell. I set the untouched drink on the counter. "You two done?" Ryan laughed, a little too loud. "Come on, Dad, it's just a joke. You gotta lighten up. You're among family." "Family," I repeated quietly. "Good to know that's what this is." Amber rolled her eyes. "You can't expect everyone to live the same way you do. Some of us moved on." The room went quiet enough to hear the ice clink in glasses. I nodded slowly. "You're right. Some of us did." Ryan smirked. "Don't take it personal, old man. You're still invited to dinner. That's what counts." I looked around the room, the expensive lights, the laughter that had turned brittle, and then back at my son. "You said rent here's high?" "Ridiculous," Ryan said. "The landlord's a shark. Whoever owns this place must swim in money." I let a faint smile cross my face. "Oh," I said softly, "I know what the rent is." He blinked. "What?" "Nothing," I said, heading toward the balcony. Just thinking how small some people look in big rooms. Amber watched me go, smirking. "He's harmless," she said to the guests. "He's just not used to being around success." But outside, under the cold December wind, I was already making a different kind of list and checking it twice. The music died down around 11. Guests drifted out with laughter and half-empty bottles, the air thick with perfume and smugness. I stayed behind to help clear the table, old habit. Marjorie used to say, "Cleaning up tells people you still belong." Amber stopped me halfway to the sink. "Oh, don't worry about that, Harold. The cleaning service comes in the morning." I nodded, set the dishes down anyway. "Still nice to leave a place better than you found it." She smiled sweetly, the kind of smile that ends in a knife. "That's sweet. You should tell Ryan that next time he mentors someone about hard work." Then she walked away, her heels clicking like punctuation. Ryan came out from the balcony, still holding a drink. "Mom's favorite phrase, huh? Better than you found it. She was old-fashioned like you." "Maybe that's why things worked," I said. He laughed, leaning on the counter. "Dad, look around. Things work better now. I'm not killing myself for pennies. I manage assets, not hammers." I studied him, the clean jawline, the perfect shirt, the man I'd once carried on my shoulders when he was small enough to fit there. "You sound proud," he smirked. "Why shouldn't I be? I learned from your mistakes. You saved every dime, and for what? A pension check and a rented room." "I don't owe anyone," I said. Ryan raised his glass in mock salute. "Exactly. You don't owe anyone because you've got nothing left to give." I set my jaw. "Money doesn't buy class, son." He chuckled. "There it is, the broke man's sermon." "Careful," I said quietly. "What? You think I'm out of line? It's called being realistic. You built a life with wrenches and lunchboxes. I build mine with numbers and leverage. That's how the world works now." He took another sip, watching me over the rim of his glass. "You should be grateful. Amber and I still invite you. Some kids would have cut you off already." For a long moment, I just stared at him. The son I'd worked overtime to send to college. The boy I'd taught to ride a bike on a dirt road while I held the seat steady. "You know," I said slowly, "you remind me of a man I used to work with. Always laughing at the guys who got their hands dirty. He called us nobodies." Ryan smirked. And when the company folded, he realized the nobodies were the ones who built the place. He rolled his eyes. "You're talking like a preacher again, Dad. Stop turning every failure into a proverb." I took a step closer, my voice dropping low. "Funny. You'd be shocked who's poor." He frowned. "What's that supposed to mean?" I just smiled faintly and picked up my coat. "Merry Christmas, Ryan." "Don't make it weird," he called after me. "We're family, not enemies." I stopped at the door without turning. "Depends on who's keeping score." As the elevator doors closed behind me, my phone buzzed, a message from Ray Morales. "Merry Christmas, old man. You'll like what's in the quarterly report. Trust pulled record rent this month." I looked at the screen and whispered, "Oh, I know." The Monday after Christmas, I stopped by the hardware store early. The manager, a kid half my age, was already talking to a customer at the counter. They stopped when I walked in. "Morning," I said. The kid cleared his throat. Hey, Mr. Denton. Everything okay? Heard you've been going through some financial stuff." I frowned. "Financial stuff?" He gave an awkward smile. "Your son was in here last week. Said you might need extra shifts. We'd have to check budget, but—" I didn't hear the rest. Just nodded and walked to the back room. By lunchtime, it wasn't just the store. My neighbor, Mrs. Porter, left a tin of cookies and a sympathy card at my door. Inside, in shaky handwriting, "Hope things turn around soon. You're too good a man to lose everything." I stared at it a long time before tossing it in the trash. That night, I opened my laptop, an old one, slow but familiar. I still kept my old online banking portal bookmarked, though I rarely used it. When the page loaded, I froze. 3 new charges. High-end boutiques, totaling over $1,200. The account name still listed me as primary, but an authorized user had been added 2 years ago, Amber L. Denton. I remembered the day she'd offered to help me with digital payments after Marjorie died. She'd smiled, saying, "Let me simplify things for you, Dad. One login, less stress." I'd thanked her. Fool. The purchase details made my stomach twist. Lux and Company jewelry, Dallas Galleria Vineyard, Lux Spa, 2 gift cards at $400 each delivery fee, Penthouse hash 1902, Maple View Tower, their apartment, my building. I called the bank. After 20 minutes of hold music, a polite woman confirmed what I already knew. "Yes, sir. Mrs. Amber Denton is listed as an authorized manager on this account. The charges are valid." "Not anymore," I said. "Remove her access, effective immediately." "Of course, sir. Would you like to file a fraud claim?" "Not yet." When I hung up, the apartment was quiet. The kind of quiet that hums before thunder. I opened my old ledger, the one with frayed corners and Marjorie's handwriting inside the cover. "Always write down what's owed." So I did. Every charge, every lie, every time they'd mistaken kindness for weakness. Under the last entry, I wrote 4 words in ink so dark it bled through the page. "Interest begins tonight." My phone buzzed, a text from Ray Morales. "You won't believe this, Harold. Your tenants just requested a rent extension for Unit 1902. Want me to approve it?" I smiled for the first time in weeks. "No," I typed back. "Let's raise it." The New Year dinner at my sister's house was supposed to be tradition. Same roast, same stories, same polite arguments. But this time I was the story. Halfway through the meal, I noticed the glances, the kind people trade when they've already decided who's pitiful. Finally, my sister leaned over, voice dripping sympathy. "Harold, I heard you've had a rough couple months. Ryan said you're cutting back. Even selling your tools?" The table went quiet. Ryan smiled, that slow, rehearsed smile of a man playing innocent. "Oh, come on, Aunt June, don't embarrass him. We just want Dad to be comfortable. He's stubborn about money, but we're helping him out." Amber chimed in, eyes soft but sharp. He refuses to move into assisted housing, says he likes his independence. It's sweet. Laughter, light, polite, poisonous. I put my fork down, appetite gone. You make it sound like I'm helpless. Amber tilted her head. Oh no, Harold, not helpless, just proud. Ryan reached over to pat my hand like I was some confused patient. Dad, it's okay. Everyone hits hard times. We're not judging. I pulled my hand back. Then stop talking like you are. The air thickened. Even the sound of the ceiling fan felt loud. My nephew broke the silence with a forced chuckle. Guess old school guys just don't like help. I looked at Ryan, my son, and said quietly, You ever wonder how you got that apartment? He frowned. What? Never mind, I said, pushing my chair back. Enjoy dinner. I could feel their eyes on me as I walked out, a man reduced to whispers and pity in his own family. Outside, the cold air burned like punishment. By the time I got back to my apartment, my breath was fog and my heart felt like iron. I sat down at the small kitchen table, same one I'd eaten at since Marjorie died, opened the drawer, pulled out my water bill, the bank letter, and the property documents Ray had filed years ago. The lights flickered once, the pipes hissed, the building groaned like an old man sighing. I stared at the envelope marked Denton Holding Trust, quarterly report. Ryan's signature request sat at the bottom, printed neatly under tenant lease 1902. He'd just called me broke while living under my roof. I laughed once, quiet and hollow, until it turned into something else. Not anger exactly, but focus, the kind of stillness that comes before a storm. Then I reached for my old ledger, turned to a clean page and wrote across the top line in firm, steady letters. Debts due, family account. A knock at the door. 3 sharp raps. When I opened it, Ray Morales stood there in his winter coat, holding a file folder. He smiled grimly. Harold, he said, you're going to want to see this. Ray stepped inside, snow dusting his coat shoulders, breath fogging in the doorway. He set the folder on my table and looked me straight in the eye. You still keep your coffee black? Only way I know how, I said, pouring 2 mugs. He didn't smile. You're going to want to sit for this. Inside the folder were printed documents, ownership ledgers, lease records, corporate filings, all under the header, Denton Holding Trust, LLC. Ray flipped to the last page and tapped a line with his pen. Here, managing trustee, Harold M. Denton. Not co-managed, not partial, full ownership. I blinked. I thought you'd put me down as silent partner years ago. I did, he said, but the paperwork never changed after Marjorie passed. You're the sole controlling entity. That means every apartment, every tenant, including Unit 1902, answers to you. I stared at the papers. My hands were steady, but my heartbeat wasn't. All this time, Ray nodded, they've been living off your signature, Harold, paying rent to your company while telling the world you're broke. Something inside me clicked, like a switch that had been waiting too long in the dark. I leaned back, exhaling slow. You ever notice, Ray, when people think you've got nothing, they stop watching what they say? He smirked. You're thinking of using it. Not anger, I said. Arithmetic. They made this personal. I'm just balancing the books. Ray sipped his coffee. You sure you want to? You could just evict them quietly. No, I said, standing. Quiet is what got me here. They humiliated me in front of blood and strangers. This isn't about money. It's about measure. He nodded slowly, eyes narrowing. Then we'll do it right. Legal, clean, airtight. I reached into the drawer, pulled out my old ledger, and laid it open next to the documents. The two books, one handwritten, one typed, looked like past and present shaking hands. "Tomorrow," I said, "we start by updating the rent agreements. New management notice from Denton Trust, signed by me. I want that envelope delivered to every tenant in the building." Ray grinned. "Even 1902? Especially 1902. He closed the folder. "You really mean to teach your son a lesson?" I looked out the window, watching snow fall under the yellow streetlight. "No, Ray. I'm going to teach him math, the kind that adds up to respect." Ray buttoned his coat, heading for the door. "You always did like even numbers." "Not anymore," I said quietly. "This time I'm collecting interest." Ray came back the next morning with 2 coffees and a printer under his arm. "If we're doing this, we're doing it clean," he said. We set up shop at my kitchen table, me with the ledger, him with the laptop. The hum of the printer filled the apartment like a heartbeat. Step 1. Official notice. We drafted a formal letter on company letterhead. "To all tenants of Denton Holding Trust, effective January 15th, management of this property has been resumed by the owner and trustee, Harold M. Denton. Rent adjustments will reflect current market rates. Please direct all correspondence to our new office at 112 Mapleview Avenue, Unit 1A. Signed, Harold M. Denton, Managing Trustee." Ray slid the first crisp copy toward me. "You sure you want to include 1902? This'll triple their rent overnight." I signed my name steady. "Triple sounds about right for people living on borrowed respect." Step 2. Paper trail. We assembled every transaction from the past year, their late payments, utility charges, Amber's unauthorized purchases, even the wine deliveries billed to the trust account. Each entry went into a neat spreadsheet titled Tenant 1902, Ledger of Misconduct. "Never underestimate the power of receipts," Ray muttered. "Marjorie used to say the same thing," I said, checking the totals. "She balanced every month down to the penny. Said the truth always lives in numbers." Step 3. The call. We needed Ryan to incriminate himself, to talk freely like he always did when he thought he was smarter than me. Ray set his phone on record and hit dial. I switched mine to speaker. "Hey, Dad," Ryan answered, chipper. "Everything okay?" "Fine," I said. "Just wanted to let you know your rent notice is coming." "What rent notice?" "For the apartment." He laughed. "You mean the one I pay to that trust?" "Yeah, funny story. Amber and I just asked the landlord for an extension. He's cool with it." "I'm sure he is," I said, "since you're talking to him." Pause. "What?" "You'll get it in writing soon. New rates, new terms. Make sure you read it all the way through." Ryan's tone sharpened. "Dad, you can't just—" "Relax," I said calmly. "It's just business." "You're serious?" he snapped. "You're raising your own son's rent?" I smiled faintly. "Not raising, correcting." He swore under his breath. "You've lost it. You can't do this." Ray mouthed, "Keep him talking." "Why not?" I asked. "Because that money—" He stopped, then stammered. "That money isn't really yours, Dad. You just hold the title. The building belongs to the trust, and Mom's gone. So technically—" "Technically?" I said softly. He exhaled. "Technically, it's mine next, eventually." Ray's eyes widened. He pointed at the recording screen. Still rolling, clean audio. I nodded slowly. "Well," I said, "you might want to reread that contract." When the call ended, Ray looked at me and grinned. "That, my friend, is Exhibit A." I flipped my ledger to a fresh page, wrote in ink, Exhibit A, entitlement recorded, 11:42 a.m. Then I closed the book and said, Time to print the eviction clause. By Thursday, the new rent notices were sealed and stamped with the blue Denton Trust emblem Ray had kept in a drawer for years. I signed each one carefully, pressing hard enough for the ink to leave a faint groove through the carbon copy beneath. Ray stacked them neatly. "You sure you don't want me to drop them off?" I shook my head. "No, this one's personal." We started at the top floor, knocking, greeting, handing over envelopes to tenants who barely looked up from their phones. Most nodded politely. Then came Unit 1902. The door opened a crack. Amber stood there, silk robe, mimosa in hand, phone balanced on her shoulder. "Oh, it's you." I handed her the envelope. "Management update, effective immediately." She took it without opening, smirking. "Rent increase? That's cute. Ryan handles all that stuff." "Tell him to read it," I said. Out loud. Her eyes narrowed. "You really are bitter about us doing well, huh?" I didn't answer. Just turned and walked down the hall while Ray recorded the delivery confirmation on his clipboard. By the time we reached the lobby, the building manager, a young woman named Carrie, came out from the back office with a puzzled look. "Mr. Denton," she said, "I didn't know you were—" "Wait, you're the Denton? The owner?" "Seems that way," I said. "You've been managing under Ryan Denton's name?" "Not exactly. He brought in paperwork 2 years ago claiming to be acting on behalf of the family trust. Said his mother had signed over permission. I filed it because the signature matched." Ray and I exchanged a look. "You still have that file?" he asked. Carrie nodded, pulling out a binder. She flipped through and stopped on a form labeled Authority to Manage Co-Trustee Edition. There it was, my late wife's signature, neat but wrong. The loops were too wide, the ink pressure inconsistent. Marjorie had written like she breathed, slow, balanced, deliberate. This looked like someone tracing memory with arrogance. I traced the forged M with my fingertip and whispered. He even copied her curls. Carrie bit her lip. "I'm sorry, Mr. Denton. Should I file this as amended?" Ray took out his phone and snapped photos. "No," he said. "File it as evidence." I looked at the paper one last time before sliding it into a plastic sleeve. Physical proof #1, forged co-trustee authorization, dated March 2022. Ray exhaled. "He forged his mother's name to control your company. That's not just greed, Harold. That's fraud." I folded the document carefully, like it might break if I breathed too hard. "It's more than that," I said. "It's how he kills respect, one signature at a time." Ray handed me a pen. "You want to press charges?" I stared at the fake signature under the fluorescent light, then slid the pen back to him. "Not yet," I said quietly. "First, he needs to know I know." Friday afternoon, I walked into the glass and steel office Ryan called Denton Capital Group. It was the kind of place that smelled like ambition, citrus cleaner, new carpet, and lies. The receptionist looked up. "Sir, do you have an appointment?" "No," I said. "Tell him Harold's here." That name still had weight. Within minutes, Ryan came out all smiles, sleeves rolled up like a man juggling success. "Dad, you could have called first." "I like surprises," I said. We stepped into his office. The skyline sprawled behind him. Same view he liked to brag about. The one he said proved he'd made it. "Nice place," I said, setting my folder on his desk. "Paid the January rent yet?" He frowned. "We were going to. The new notice was ridiculous. You can't triple rent overnight." "I can," I said. "Trust policy." His laugh cracked like cheap glass. "Dad, stop this. You're not thinking straight." Amber and I already spoke to the building manager. I know, I interrupted. She showed me the paperwork, the one with your mother's name on it. He froze, mask slipping for just a second. That's just an old document. Routine authorization. Funny, I said, sliding the sheet toward him. It's dated 2 years after she died. His jaw tightened. You're misreading it. Ray, standing by the door, spoke for the first time. No, he's not. We verified the ink date and signature overlay. It's a forgery. Ryan turned on him. Who the hell are you? Ray Morales, I said. The man who actually set up Denton Trust. Ryan's smirk returned, thin and bitter. This is pathetic. You think anyone's going to believe a couple of washed-up old men waving papers around? I met his gaze. They don't have to believe me. They just have to believe what's filed. He slammed his palm on the desk. You're ruining your own family's name. No, I said, leaning in. You already did. His voice dropped low, venomous. You really think you can win this, old man? Nobody's going to side with you. You've been living like a ghost. You don't have a record, a presence, nothing. People will believe me. Ray hit the stop button on his phone recorder and smiled. Good. That'll sound great in court. Ryan's face drained. You recorded that? I gathered the papers slowly. You wanted to play businessman, son. Welcome to accounting. Every word's on the ledger now. He lunged forward, voice cracking. You can't do this! I looked him dead in the eye. You forged your mother's name for money. I can do whatever it takes to make her rest easy again. As I turned to leave, Ryan shouted, You won't ruin me, old man. Nobody will believe a washed-up has been with a ledger and a grudge. I stopped at the doorway, turned my head slightly. Maybe, I said, but numbers don't lie, and neither does ink. The fallout came fast. By Monday morning, 3 calls hit my phone before breakfast, all from confused tenants. Mr. Denton, one said, I thought you were retiring. Your son said management changed hands again. Another, he said you've been having memory lapses. Should we send payments to him instead? The last one wasn't even polite. We don't want to be part of some family feud, sir. Please confirm who's actually in charge. I hung up without answering the third. My hands were steady, but my coffee wasn't. It shook just enough to leave a brown ring on Marjorie's old tablecloth. Ray showed up a few hours later, eyes sharp. He's faster than I thought. He sent a mass email last night to every tenant and business partner, saying you've been declared mentally unfit to manage property affairs. He's calling me senile, I said flatly. Ray nodded grimly. He even attached a fake doctor's note, something about early cognitive decline. Sloppy Photoshop, but enough to cause doubt. Let him talk, I said. Truth's a slower horse, but it wins the race. Ray frowned. We can't rely on metaphors, Harold. We need representation, legal, professional, not just 2 old dogs with a ledger. That's when he made a call. 10 minutes later, there was a knock at my door. A woman stepped in, mid-30s, sharp gray suit, eyes that didn't blink often. Mr. Denton, I'm Layla Pierce, property and fraud attorney. Ray said you could use some help. I stood, shook her hand. Appreciate your time, Miss Pierce. I'm guessing this isn't your usual holiday case. She smiled faintly. No, but I like cases with teeth. We sat at the table while she read through the file Ray had assembled. The forged authorization, the rent ledger, and the recording of Ryan's confession. Her eyes narrowed, then widened slightly. You have him dead to rights, she said. Forgery, misrepresentation, financial coercion, and now defamation. That email alone is actionable. I exhaled. Then why do I still feel like the one on trial? Because he's using the oldest trick in the book, she said. Make the victim defend their sanity. Works better than any lock. I looked at the photo of Marjorie I kept by the window. He forged her name, Layla, my wife's name. Her expression softened for half a second. Then let's make sure her signature clears yours, legally and publicly. She slid her tablet across the table. I'm drafting a cease and desist for defamation and a preliminary injunction to freeze any assets he's touched. But I'll need something stronger to crush this fast. A second, physical proof that no one can dispute. Ray leaned forward. We've got one more source. The notary who signed that 2022 form. Layla nodded. Find him. Verify it. Bring me whatever he says. Once we have that, we'll file everything in open court. You'll get your name back, Mr. Denton, and he'll get his first public lesson. That night, as Ray and Layla left, I looked out the window at the glowing city where my son was still celebrating his fake success. I whispered under my breath, he wanted to make me look old. Let's see how young he feels in a courtroom. 2 days later, Ray tracked him down. The notary whose stamp appeared on the forged authorization. Name, Leonard Brooks, age 71, retired, still living in Denton County. We drove out early, gray morning fog hugging the road. His house sat at the end of a dirt lane, mailbox leaning like it was tired of secrets. Leonard opened the door before we could knock twice. You the ones asking about a 2022 trust form? Yes, sir, I said. Harold Denton. Recognition flickered in his eyes. Thought that name sounded familiar. He motioned us in. The house smelled of paper and dust, the scent of a man who never threw away proof. He shuffled to a file cabinet, fingers tracing yellow folders. I notarized thousands of documents back then, but this one stuck out. The kid who brought it in, smooth talker, shiny watch, said his dad was getting too old to handle details. Ray shot me a look. That kid have a name? Ryan, he said simply. Ryan Denton. My throat tightened. Did my wife sign it in front of you? Leonard hesitated, then pulled out a small digital recorder from the drawer. No, sir. I didn't know she'd passed until later, but I record every session. Liability reasons. I've still got the original audio. He pressed play. The device crackled to life. Background noise, the shuffle of papers, a young man's confident voice. Go ahead and read the name clearly for the record, Leonard's voice said in the recording. Marjorie L. Denton, Ryan's voice replied, steady and deliberate. Then a pause. Leonard again. Sir, are you sure she'll be present to sign? Ryan chuckled lightly. She trusts me, always has. Click, end of file. The silence that followed was heavier than any courtroom gavel. Leonard sighed. I felt uneasy after that. Even wrote a note about it. Here. He handed me a lined slip from his logbook. Dated March 18th, 2022, it read, Young man signed in absentia for deceased relative. Verification pending. Ray let out a low whistle. You just gave us gold, Leonard. Leonard nodded solemnly. I don't like liars, never did. Layla, who'd joined us midway, reached for the recorder with gloved hands. We'll need chain of custody verification, but this is airtight. Forgery, fraud, and intent, all on record. I looked down at the recorder in her hand, small, silver, unassuming, and felt my chest loosen for the first time in months. Proof wasn't just paper anymore. It had a voice. His voice. Keep it safe, I said quietly. We'll use it once, at the right time. Layla nodded. And that time's coming fast. I just filed your injunction this morning. Court date set for the 24th. Ray grinned. Christmas came late this year. I smiled faintly. No, I said, standing. It's just time to collect. As we left, Leonard called after me, voice rough with age. Mr. Denton, you were right to keep your receipts. I turned back and said, Always do, son. Always do. The courthouse smelled of varnish and nerves. Rows of polished benches gleamed under fluorescent light. Reporters lined the back wall, not because of fame, but because stories like this made good headlines. Son accused of defrauding father's estate. Layla sat beside me, calm and sharp. Ray stood behind, arms crossed, a quiet wall of loyalty. Across the aisle, Ryan adjusted his cufflinks, whispering to his attorney, the same smug grin he wore at Christmas dinner. When the judge called the case, the room settled into the kind of silence you could measure in heartbeats. Case number 24, 1183, the clerk read. Denton Holding Trust versus Ryan Denton, defendant. Layla opened. Her voice was steady as a metronome. Your Honor, my client's son forged a deceased woman's signature, attempted to seize property through deceit, and defamed the rightful owner. We'll be presenting physical proof of all three. Ryan's attorney shot back with feigned outrage. This is a misunderstanding. Family disputes shouldn't be criminalized. Mr. Denton Sr. suffers from cognitive... Stop, the judge said flatly. Evidence first. Layla nodded toward Ray. He walked to the table, set down a clear evidence bag. Inside, the forged document with Marjorie's false signature. Then she placed a small silver recorder beside it. Play Exhibit B, she said. The courtroom filled with a click. Then Ryan's voice, young, confident, echoing through the speakers. Marjorie L. Denton. She trusts me, always has. Layla let the silence that followed stretch long enough for everyone to feel it. Then she spoke softly. That recording was taken by the notary present at the signing. Mrs. Denton had been deceased 10 months. The judge leaned forward. Mr. Ryan Denton, would you like to explain? Ryan's mouth opened, then closed again. His lawyer whispered furiously. He shook his head, words tumbling out. She must have... It's a mistake. Layla stepped aside. And here, she continued, is Exhibit C, a notarized log entry noting the signer was deceased. The gavel struck once, sharp. Enough. The court finds sufficient grounds for fraud, misrepresentation, and defamation. The forged authorization is null and void. Full ownership of Denton Holding Trust remains with the plaintiff, Harold Denton. The air seemed to shift. Reporters scribbled faster. Amber covered her mouth, whispering, "Oh my God." Ryan slumped in his chair. His lawyer whispered, "We'll appeal," but even he didn't sound convinced. I stood slowly. "Your Honor," I said, voice steady, "I'm not here for punishment. I just wanted my name back. And my wife's." The judge nodded. "You've got both." When the gavel fell for the last time, I turned to Ryan. He couldn't meet my eyes. I leaned close enough for only him to hear. "You thought shame could break me, but all it did was teach me how to count." He said nothing, just stared at the floor as deputies gathered papers and flashes from cameras filled the room. Mini cliffhanger, closure beat. Outside, the winter wind hit sharp, clean. Ray clapped my shoulder. "Feels lighter, doesn't it?" "Lighter," I said, watching the courthouse steps. "And honest." Layla smiled. "Not many men your age walk out of court with both dignity and property intact. You should write a book." I chuckled. "Already did," Ray grinned. "That ledger?" I nodded. Every line in ink. Epilogue, aftermath, and CTA. A month later, the building was quiet again. Unit 1902 sat empty. The rent checks came on time. The tenants called me sir with respect instead of pity. Sometimes I still look at Marjorie's framed photo and whisper, "We kept it honest, sweetheart. We kept it ours." The ledger sits closed on my desk. Last page signed with a single sentence. Debt settled. Lesson delivered. And when the city lights reflect off the window at night, I pour a cup of coffee, take one slow sip, and smile. Merry Christmas, son. I hope you learned something. If you've listened this far, thank you. Tell me in the comments, what would you have done in my place? And don't forget to subscribe to Revenge Stories Men U55 America, because stories like mine deserve to be heard.